This Wednesday on Beyond the Vibe, I'm joined by Phil X of Bon Jovi.
So I go, what gig? And he said, I can't tell you over the phone. So if you could come by my studio tomorrow, we could have a talk. And I'm like, cool. I go by the studio, and he literally said, here's a statement of confidentiality. Here's a contract. How do you feel about opening? I mean, how do you feel about filling in for Richie Sambora and Bon Jovi? And I think the first thing out of my mouth was, that can't be done. That's impossible. There's no way anybody could do that. He goes, well, I know everybody. And John asked me, who's the guy? And I said, the guy was you. So if you want the gig, it's yours. And if you don't want it, somebody's gonna have to do it. I told him it was you. You have 5 seconds. And I was like, wow. Okay. We were recording so fast. John wanted to record forever, like Slippery When Wet. Instead of, the past records, like we're gonna do the drums here in this city and the bass there, and we'll do the vocals in New York and then the guitars in LA. He wanted it all done under one roof. So we were at Ocean Way in Nashville, and we didn't leave until the last note was recorded, which was the solo for Living Proof. That was the last thing I recorded. Yeah. And we were all proud. Even John was like, that solo's crazy. It's this bouzouki tuning thing that I do. And he had never seen it before. And I liked the solo before, but that could have been anybody. This solo is you. It's Phil X. This is the last thing we're recording. The record's done. We're not recording one more note. I was like, wow, okay. Steven Tyler is just 70-something and like the front guy. Like, it's unbelievable, but it's not like, it is what it is. It's powerful. So and he was gracious backstage, He was like, Phil, you need a water? You want a snack? You need a soda? You need anything? I was like, what the hell, dude? What are you working for hospitality now?
So I'm here with Phil X. Thank you so much for joining me. Of course, I'm sure many will be familiar with you from Bon Jovi, but, which we'll get into. But first, I want to talk about your new album,
Yes.
with Phil X and the Drills. How Right in the Kisser. I mean, I love the name, right? You have this kind of star-studded album as well, with Tommy Lee, Ray Luzier, Tico Torres. Has this been something that you've wanted to do for a while, in particular with drummers?
Well, it's funny because a lot of records have guest guitar players and guest singers, and we have guest drummers because even way in the beginning, like Jeremy Spencer was the original drummer in Phil X and the Drills, and then when he left to follow his metal dreams with Five Finger Death Punch, it was like we had a different drummer every week. And it's because if you have a great drummer, they're probably playing in like 10 or 15 bands. So I'd be like, hey man, we got a gig at the Whiskey on next Friday, and sorry man, I got a gig already. Or hey man, can you play next Friday? And I'm on the road. And so everybody's like busy. So we were having like a different drummer all the time. And then we had another Canadian, Randy Cook, who also plays in 10 bands. He was in the band at the time, and I was like, hey, I want to record this record in June. And he goes, oh, I'm going to be on tour until September. And then at the same time, I was in a studio working on a record with Josh Freese, and voicing my frustration. And he goes, well, I'll play on a couple of songs. And then Chris Chaney, who now plays bass with AC/DC, was there, and he was like, hey, I can call Taylor, meaning Taylor Hawkins. He'll probably play on a couple of songs. And then they set the ball in motion for me to think, well, we'll just have a few drummers on this record. I didn't know at the time that it would turn into 11. Like a different drummer on every track. But I was just, being in this industry, you befriend a lot of drummers, and I love drummers. I love drumming. I just suck at it. And Dan was along for the ride. Daniel Spree, my bass player, he's on bass and background vocals on every song, and it was exciting for him too, because even though I played on all of Tommy Lee's solo records, the last time Dan saw Tommy was on stage with Motley Crue. So him being in the same room, it was kind of like, oh. So, but it kind of lended itself to the energy that we created as a band for 90 minutes. And I became, obviously Tico was an obvious choice. We were on the road with Bon Jovi, and we had a day off in Vegas. And I said, "Hey man, if I get a studio on Sunday, will you come and play on a track?" And he said, "Of course." And I met Liberty DeVito when we were shooting footage for the Hired Gun documentary, and we totally hit it off. And I was in New York, doing 2 sold out nights at Madison Square Garden with Bon Jovi, and asked if he would come in the afternoon of night 2 to the power station and play on the track. And he said, "Of course." And and then Ray, we were talking on the phone for the longest time, and he was finally in LA, so we got him to come to the studio 606 in Northridge. And the funny thing about his song, "Don't Wake Up Dead,"
Mm.
as soon as me, Dan, and Ray went through that song as like a band, it was like, ooh, I think this one's opening the record.
Mm.
And it did. So there was amazing moments. Brian Tishy on "You Sunk My Battleship." What an amazing drum track. Kenny Aronoff. I can't say enough about these guys. It's really amazing. There's a new kid in town, Tosh Peterson, who's playing with Lady Gaga now, and we became friends over the internet because he started as a drummer playing amazing covers of songs in this tiny room, and so I started following him. And then one day the cover is a Drills tune, and I was like, "What? How do you even know the Drills?" And he was like, "Well, I love Bon Jovi, and Tico's one of my favorite drummers, and I became a Phil X fan by default." And so then he played on "Seemed Like a Good Idea," and other guys. I played on other records with some of these guys. So the list just got longer and longer, and then bam, it was 11.
Mm. I mean, two of my personal favorite tracks are the two that you've mentioned, "Don't Wake Up Dead" and "You Sunk My Battleship." Can you recall kind of how those songs came about? What was the process with those?
The "Don't Wake Up Dead" was literally. I know people say this, and I always thought it was a myth or a joke or just a lie. But "Don't Wake Up Dead" kind of wrote itself. Like I was
Mm.
literally driving around. I write my best stuff when I'm driving, by the way. I don't listen to music. I'm in there. I'm waiting for a spark, and a spark comes, and then I have a lyric, a riff, or a melody, and I record it into my phone, and then see what I got at the end of the week. I had I had "Don't Wake Up Dead" in 5 minutes, like first verse, chorus, driving around, and then second verse, chorus, and then the solo, and then the last chorus, and then bam. I
Mm.
mean, I was singing, I was. People talk about my life. Like I was driving around doing that. And then, oh wow, that's cool. And then this line, and then that line, and then something, something revolution. What would be a cool revolution? and then, and then it just all came out.
A thing I like to do to kind of have a look at how things all began, because people always assume they see you as you are today as this complete musician, and they always think, how can you go from there to there? But like, how did this journey begin for you, going right back to the beginning? What was that thing for you growing up where you thought, this is what I want to do? I want to be a guitarist.
You know, I was 8. My dad put an electric guitar in my hands that I could barely hold when I was 5,
Hmm.
because he was a music lover. Like he adored music. And there was actually a lot of Greek music playing at my house when I was growing up. So I saw a lot of emotions. Like he knew like 500 political songs from the 40s. And you know, he could make people laugh and he could make people cry. And that's when I realized how, like, the power of music,
Mm.
you know. And then by the time I was 8, because we all loved Elvis as well, I had an Elvis set. You know, I had Teddy Bear, Blue Suede Shoes, probably Jailhouse Rock, Hound Dog, all that stuff. But, you know, we were at a Greek wedding when I was 8. And my dad said, "Why don't you get up and play a couple of songs?" And I was like, "In front of people?" Because, you know, it's a Greek wedding, there's 400 people
Mhm.
there. And he goes, "Come on, you can do it." And he's like a take charge kind of guy. He literally walked up to the band that was on break and he goes, "Hey guys, while you're taking a break, my son's going to play a couple of songs." And they're like, "Yes, sir." And he needs your guitar and your microphone. So I got up there and I played Blue Suede Shoes and Teddy Bear. And I literally, as an insecure little 8-year-old boy, I thought I was bombing. I thought I was like, because I found out later that everybody was so quiet because they were in shock. There was no YouTube at the time, and they were just watching this kid sing and play Elvis songs. And then when I was done, that's when the room erupted into this huge standing ovation, people freaking out, girls going crazy, and that was the moment of truth.
Mm.
That was the this is what I'm gonna do.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
then you know, if a couple of years later I started discovering about lead guitar like solos and stuff, it was like, you know, um, Triumph and then Ted Nugent. I got way into Ted Nugent when I was 11. And then Black Sabbath. And then before I knew it, you know, Edward Van Halen came into my life and then it changed everything. You know, I'm old enough to have seen Van Halen in 1980, 81, 82, and 84.
Mm.
So those shows were truly life changing. Like and it set the standard. If you didn't go on stage and play amazing guitar while sprinting across the stage and jumping off the drum riser, then I didn't want to see you. You know what I mean? Like the whole band was like four superheroes saving the world with rock and roll, and that's what it was. And
Mm.
that's what that left the impression on me of what I needed to do.
Mm.
And you know, as years go by, you know, the other guys jumped into the scene. I loved Randy Rhoads when he came on, and I loved Uli John Roth, you know, the early Scorpion stuff.
Mm.
And you know, there's so many players that influence you, and then you take a little bit of each guy. It's like a spice, and you throw it into your bowl of stuff and create your own individual identity. Because I knew at a young age I didn't want to be a copycat. I think what took me over the edge was I started playing bouzouki when I was 17. I mean, I'd been playing bouzouki before that, but I really got into bouzouki and it did this amazing thing to my picking.
Mm.
And you know, you and guitar players growing up, you're always sitting around and playing. And then I pulled out this crazy lick, and my buddy was like, "What the heck?" And I was like, "What?" He goes, "You're picking, man. What happened to your picking? Your picking is insane." I go, "Oh, I started playing bouzouki." Bazoo what? It's like nobody knew what it was. But to me, I grew up with it. So it was, you know, and then when you jump on guitar with the same kind of articulation, it really, really stands out.
Mm.
So fast forward, you know, I'm writing songs. I recorded my first band with my 6-song EP on vinyl with a band called Citinex, which is my last name backwards. And we did gigs. And then before I knew it, there was another gig. And then I started playing with recording act Frozen Ghost, a Canadian thing. Um, and that was my first tour with them. And then I played with Aldo Nova, and that was the first tour in the States on a bus. And then I was in Triumph for a record and 11 shows. And then fast forward, I didn't want to be a side guy anymore. I just started writing more and put bands together. And uh, and then when I moved to LA in '97, I had I had a few bands with my first wife. She sang and I played guitar. And then we landed on this band called Powder, which started doing really, really well and getting a lot of attention. But
Mm.
by then we were old. They were calling the industry was calling us old, even though I didn't look 31. They were like, "Yeah,
I was
man,
going
they
to
were
say,
18."
yeah, I
Yeah,
was going
if
to
they were,
say this story about because I'd read this. about the some guys saying that you were too old, and I'm 31, and I was like, is like how's that a thing? Like, what was your
Well, I
reaction?
mean, I don't know if it's the internet has kind of changed a lot of things about the industry,
Yeah.
right? But when I was 31 looking like 24,
Mm,
our entertainment lawyer brought Maverick Records to see us at the Viper Room, and the guy flipped out and he said, "Wow, man, I would give them whatever they wanted if they were 18."
wow.
18. I'm like, "What?" Like, yeah, and even our lawyer was like, "What are you talking about, man? 18-year-olds at the time, they don't play like that or write songs
Yeah.
like that or perform like that. You're not going to get that for at 18." And he says, "Yeah, but I can't sign these guys that are in their late 20s. I just can't." So it was like that. And then, you know what, things happen in your life that are monumental moments. And one of mine was we opened for this guy at the Key Club. Before we were selling out the Key Club, we opened for this guy. And he was a cast member of Buffy and the Vampire Slayer. So he had 16-year-old girls lined up down the 2 blocks at noon to see him play. But all those 16-year-old girls came early so they could get right in front of the stage. And then we went on first and killed them. We, we killed them. And then that's how our fan base started. You know, when you
Mm,
do the opening spot, it's your job to try and scare the headliner, you know?
mm,
So we definitely did. And we there was a girl, Elisa, and she I met her in the parking lot, and she had bought the CD, and she asked me to sign it. And then weeks later on a message board, remember when, maybe you don't remember when we had message boards, but there was a message board, and one of her best friends messaged me and said, "Hey, I don't know if you remember Elisa, you met her at the last show. Anyway, she was in a terrible car accident and lost her arm.
man.
If you could call her with some words of positivity or inspiration or anything like that, that would be great. This is her number." So I called her and I go, "Hi, Lisa, this is Phil from Powder." And she goes, "No, it's not." And I'm like, "No, it truly is." She goes, "Justin, if this is you, this is a cruel joke." And I was like, I told her, I convinced her it was me. You know, we were in the parking lot talking. You said this, I said that. I signed your CD. And she was like, "Oh my God, I can't believe I'm talking to you. I have to let you know that listening to your record over and over and over and over helped me get through this whole thing." And what an epiphany. The light went on. It was like,
Mm,
fuck the industry, fuck management, fuck agents, fuck record labels, fuck everybody. It's about fans, man. We change
mm,
lives. That's our power. And and everything. And then when we didn't give a shit, that's when we got more attention. And then I started doing all kinds of other stuff. I became a real high end session cat. I was playing on, you know, 3 or 4 sessions a week. Sometimes it was like 18 days a month. And the money was really good too. And it could afford us to do more stuff with the bands. I started the drills because I wanted my own voice. And
mm,
instead of, you know, doing Powder with my first wife singing, it was me singing my lyrics because I wanted to write lyrics that a girl couldn't sing, you
mm.
know? So that's why it became like a huge other thing for me. And then the first marriage fell apart, Powder fell apart. I was still doing the drills, I was still doing sessions, and then got the call from Bon Jovi.
I
After
mean,
collecting 50 million um, collective views on vintage guitar demo videos on YouTube. So, I mean, those were all the steps. I apologize for the long version, but
no.
I think that's what you asked for.
Yeah, I mean, you're smashing it. I was about to say the obviously you get the call for Bon Jovi. I mean, surely that's the dream, isn't it? Like what goes through your head at that point?
Well, you know, the way I got to break it down. So I was John Shanks, who had produced many Bon Jovi records before that. I mean, tons of other stuff too. But he had
Mm,
been working with Bon Jovi for years at this point. And we met at Henson because he had a studio at Henson, and I was in Studio D working on another project. And he just found me, and he said, "I couldn't stop watching your guitar demos last night. I think for hours. And it sounds like you can play and sing anything, and you're super funny. And that's how we met. And then 2 weeks later, he called and he said, I think I have a gig for you. And I was like, how'd you get my number? I'm just kidding. So I go, what gig? And he said, um, I can't tell you over the phone. So if you could come by my studio tomorrow, we could have a talk. And I'm like, cool. I go by the studio and he literally said, here's a statement of confidentiality. Here's a contract. How do you feel about opening? I mean, how do you feel for about filling in for Richie Sambora and Bon Jovi? And I think the first thing out of my mouth was, that can't be done. That's impossible. There's no way anybody could do that. He goes, well, I know everybody. And John asked me, who's the guy? And I said, the guy was you.
Mm.
So if you want the gig, it's yours. And if you
Uh,
don't want it, somebody's going to have to do it. I told him it was you. You have 5 seconds. And I was like,
wow.
okay. So it kind of went like that. And to be honest, it was a really, it was kind of eye-opening. The business happens at
Mm.
that point. The lawyers talk and they offer money. And I was like, I was being the session guy that I was at the time. I was like, I make more money at home. And I could
Mm.
talk. I don't want to be the bad guy. I call my lawyer. I'm like, can you get more money? And he called, and they said, nope, this is what we pay all side guys. And then my lawyer said, well, we're not talking about a side guy. We're talking about a pinch hitter.
Mm.
We're talking about a guy filling in for the guy. And they said, okay. And then it all worked out, man. And then I remember April 14th, I learned the show. And on April 14th, 2011, I get a call from a New York phone number and I don't answer. I just let it go to voicemail. And then when I check the message, it's Phil X, John Bon Jovi calling. I'm calling. Call me back. That was it. And then I go, oh my God, is this happening? Because the whole even the contract
Mm.
stated, learn the show. You may come out, you may not come out. You'll only
Mm.
come out if we need you. So when the call from John came, that was okay. This is real. And then I had a nice conversation with John, and he was excited about it. And he makes it sound like throwing a rock into a brook. It was kind of like, yeah, if you come out with like 2.5 hour show, we'll be fine. Okay. So it's a lot of there's a lot of energy there. He said
Mm.
they set up a rehearsal in New York at the end of the month and put me on hold for May. And then when I landed in New York, John was like, I don't know if you heard, but Richie went into rehab today, and you're doing May, and our first show is on this Saturday in front of 50,000 people at the New Orleans Jazz Fest. So, and that's how that went down.
It's
It's
crazy.
pretty it's I mean, I'm just talking about it now. It's pretty unreal that that's how it went down.
I mean, of course, you've done 3 albums with Bon Jovi now.
Really?
How, I believe, yeah, I want to say 3. I'm thinking about it now. You're making me think.
I think you're right. Woo!
And like, how does that work? Like, is it like a high pressure thing? Is he really chill? Like, what's the process there? Like, how does that happen when
I
you're
think
coming up with that?
what really helped me out was being the session guy that I was back in the mid 2000s, like from
Mm.
2006 to 2013, well, 2011, basically. I was the call. It was me and Tim Pierce, and people would call Tim Pierce if I wasn't available, and they'd call me if Tim wasn't available. And Tim and I became friends too. And we actually played on a couple of things together too. So that was, but when you're the call, you're like, it's lucrative, it's fun, and you become the call by being a chameleon. Like,
Mm.
and I'm a songwriter too, so I could go into a session and just hear the song and know exactly what it needs and
Mm.
hit the mark. And we got to get that Phil X guy because he did that record.
Mm.
And and then word gets around, Um, and people are specific. One, hey, can you bring the acoustic guitar that you used on Home on the Daughtry record? And yes, I can. So you're getting the calls, and you're delivering, and it's because, like, I'll give you an example. If you're recording with Avril Lavigne on Tuesday and then Alice Cooper on Thursday, it's not just different guitars and different pedals and different amps. You got to be a different guy. Your approach has to be specific to that project. And I could
Mm.
do that. I could turn it on and off. So going into the studio, I had that under my belt when I went into the studio with Bon Jovi. So it was the same kind of thing. John, what are you looking for? I'll play a couple of things and you say what you like, what you don't like. And that's basically how it went down. And this house is not for sale. There was the one thing he was like, when we do the solo, there was a song called Born Again Tomorrow. And he goes, I want you to rip in this. I want ripping. I want you to, like what Eddie Van Halen did to Beat It. I want you to just pull it all out and go for it. And I did. And we were there for like an hour. We had a beginning and then an ending and then screwed around with the stuff in the middle. And then bam, at some point we had it all. And then just, okay, now that we had the pieces, let's get a performance of it top to bottom. And that's what happened. And it was stuff like that. But you know what? When it comes to the people are like, why don't you play on the Bon Jovi record like you play on a Drills record? And I'm like, I got to be honest. As a guitar player, as a musician, as an artist, it doesn't belong.
Mm.
It doesn't. When I'm listening to a song that's on even on the new record, Forever, that I'm a really big fan of, there wasn't a moment where I felt like I got to burn on this. I gotta pull out all the stops. And no, it's not. It's not. I want to serve the song. I want to serve the chorus. I want to serve the lyric, the theme. I want to serve all that with the
Mm.
part that belongs. There's a couple of solos that I really like, that I forgot. We were recording so fast. John wanted to record Forever like Slippery When Wet. Instead of, the past records, like we're gonna do the drums here in this city and the bass there, and we'll do the vocals in New York and then the guitars in LA. He wanted it all done under one roof. So we were at Ocean Way in Nashville and we didn't leave until the last note was recorded, which was the solo for Living Proof. That was the last thing I recorded.
Yeah.
And we were all proud. Even John was like, that solo's crazy. It's this bazooki tuning thing that I do. And he had never seen it before. And I liked the solo before, but that could have been anybody. This solo is you. It's Bill X. This is the last thing we're recording. The record's done. We're not recording one more note. I was like, wow, okay. That's how it went down. But to be honest, somebody comes up to you and they go, I love the solo in People's House. And I was like, I don't remember. Because we were
Yeah, it's
going through
just
stuff
so
so
quick.
fast.
Yeah.
So I pull up my phone and I listen to the solo. That is a good solo. And then another good solo is Waves. Yeah, there's like that was one of those songs. Like John had been sitting on most of those songs for from 6 months to a year. So he
Mm.
had an idea of how he wanted everything to sound, which mixed with something I call demoitis. You listen to it too much and it's hard to deviate from what you've been listening to. So your job being in the band is either recreating what he expects or beating it. So, and it's hard to
Mm.
beat it, but there was a couple of times that we achieved what he was hearing, but with better tones and better, embellishments. And there was stuff that we just beat what he was hearing and it was perfect. So when I did the solo to Waves, it was because, I just had this in my head. I just wanted it to sound a certain way. And Waves was a song that it was new. We were in Nashville and John said, hey, John Shanks to John Bon Jovi said, hey, let's go finish this song with Jason Isbell. So they went there. And so John came in with this new song with no preconceived anything. It was like a new song. We had all listened to it for the first time. And then it came together with everybody on the floor. I'm looking at Tico, I'm looking at David, I'm looking at Hugh, I'm looking at Shanks. John is here singing. And as a band, that whole track was created on the spot. And for me, that's why it's one of my favorites. The urgency of the newness was there. So when it was time to do solo, it just came out. And I can listen to that all day long. It's amazing.
A question I love to finish on, that I ask every guest. It's a bit of a hypothetical one. And you've obviously worked with many amazing people over the years. But
Yeah.
if you could work with one musician from the past and one from the present, who would they be? You know, of course, you've
Wow.
done, I believe you've had Chris Cornell and some
Yeah.
iconic people over the
Iconic.
years. Yeah.
Yeah. That was an amazing experience. Um, yeah, I've got to play with some pretty amazing people. In a live situation too. Like, I mean, you know, if like I've been playing on events
Mm,
with like a super group with the menu of incredible singers and history making musicians. So, I could be in the last couple of months, I actually, played with Robin Zander from Cheap Trick
mm.
and Glenn Hughes from Deep Purple and Sammy Hagar and Steven Tyler and Chris Robinson from the Black Crowes. So, I mean, I've been checking off my lead singer list, but you're playing their songs, which is amazing. If you play, how do you not get goosebumps playing Dream Police
Mm.
with Robin Zander? How do you not get, playing Burn with Glenn Hughes? It's all this stuff. I was in cover bands before I moved to LA, and I was playing Black Crow songs, Jealous Again, Twice as Hard, Remedy, and now I'm playing them with the dude. Come on.
Mm.
It's everything's going crazy. Everything's buzzing. So the thing with getting in a creative space uh and recording with someone,
Mm.
whether it be like Steven Tyler or Sammy Hagar or Chris Robinson or even Robin Zander, that would be kind of cool.
Mm.
Steven Tyler is just 70 something and like the front guy. Like it's unbelievable. Like I keep saying like, but it's not like, it is what it is. It's powerful. So and he was gracious backstage, he was like, "Phil, you need a water? You want a snack? You need a soda? You need anything?" I was like, "What the hell, dude? What are you working for hospitality now?" It was like unbelievable walking down the hall backstage. So that was, these people are real, man. It's real.
Mm.
And Sammy Hagar was amazing, and he did a little promo for my song "Fake the Day Away" on the new record on his Insta channel, and I mean, he didn't have to do that.
Mm.
It was amazing. So you you're hanging out with these guys, and everybody's super cool, and everybody have nothing but amazing experiences. So,
Mm.
but I mean, to get back to your question, man, someone from the past from
One
was
from
the
the
first one.
past, yeah, and one from the present. Is there any that you haven't ticked, or maybe that you can't tick if you could go back and pull them?
Wow. It would be amazing to do something with I think David Bowie
Mm.
would be he was such a cutting edge visionary his entire career. And I
So
always felt
varied.
like
Yeah.
he could take I think he could do anything on anything. Like if there was a track that I would say, "Hey, listen to this," and I think he could just be David Bowie on top of it.
Mm.
Or I mean it's that kind of thing for me that it's it's having a spectrum of inventiveness
Mm.
that a lot of musicians don't have, you know? He was just one of those guys. Um, I'd love to do something with wait, when you say present, you mean like new?
Well, like they can be still playing. Like they could have been around for years, but they can still be
Yeah. Well, you know
active.
what? It's all the drummers I've played with, it'd be really great to do a track with Dave Grohl. That would be pretty awesome.
Mm.
Yeah. And I'd love to have like I think Josh Homme was in the best shoes when they put the Crooked Vultures together. I mean, you got Dave Grohl and you got John Paul Jones on bass. Um, I would step into those shoes, guitar player,
Mm,
singer, and that would be pretty amazing.
mm. I mean, it's yeah. I agree. I mean, I love that that record. Um, it's
You
there's
know what? I
just
didn't.
something
You know,
there.
I wish there was more. Like, you know what would have been better for me? Like, I
Mm,
liked it, but I think they needed a wailing front man. You know what I mean? Like
I
they
get
could have
you.
got, if you had, that was the band, and you had someone like Jay from Rival Son singing,
Yeah,
that
that
would
could
have
be. Yeah,
that
I
would
see your
approach
point.
that would have approached the stratosphere of rock and roll for sure.
I know what you mean. It's that when you mention it, yeah, it's like that. You if it had that extra oomph,
Yeah,
yeah.
because it could have, look at Zeppelin. What would have Zeppelin would have been a great band, but if they didn't have Robert Plant,
This is it.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Aerosmith would have been a great band, but what if they didn't have Steven Tyler?
Mm.
It's that kind of thing. So, I mean, for me, the vocal is so important, and that powerhouse rhythm section needed a soaring vocal on top of it. That's what it was for me. I was like, this
Mm.
would be great, but this would make it more great.
Yeah. No, I get it, man. Just to finish off, is there, from your album Power Right in the Kisser, is there a particular one for those that haven't heard it yet, like a particular track that you would point
Oh,
to as one?
there's a couple. I love the opening track, "Don't Wake Up Dead." Um, I love the one that Tommy played on, which is "Take the Day Away." It's because it was a thematically different for us. The way I sang it was different for us. But when we played it live, the Drills did a few shows in Texas a couple of months ago, and we played that song every night. And I got uh, this feeling like, wow, there's something really special about this song, you know? And then I think, I mean, there's so many good songs on it. If you like Sabbath, you have to listen to "You Sunk My Battleship."
Mm.
And if you like the punk side of the Drills with shredding guitar, you need to listen to "Way Gone." So that's where I'm going, I think.
Yeah, yeah. I love the
But I love the
variety
whole
in it.
thing.
Yeah.
I love the whole thing. They're all my kids, you know?
This is it. It's like trying to pick your favorite kid, isn't it? I
Well, yeah.
imagine. Yeah.
My mom used to say something really funny because I had a brother and two sisters, and there was four kids. And my youngest sister was like, "Who do you like best?" And she's like, "I can't say who I like best. It would be like, which finger would I cut off?" And I'd walk in, I go, "Come on, mom. Everybody would cut off the pinky if you had to, right?"
This is it, man. Well, it's been a pleasure speaking with you, man.
Yeah,
And
you too, man. Thank you so much.
I don't know, and obviously, Power Right in the Kisser is out now. The
Came
link in
out
the
in
description.
March. Yeah, and it's
Yes.
rocking.
For those that want to grab that, you can via a link in the description below. I would certainly encourage you to, because I mean, as we mentioned here, there's something for everybody, I think, on this. I really
I think
do.
so too.
Yeah.
I think so too. I have friends that have been longtime Drills fans. They thought I didn't think you could beat the last record, but this one's really special.
Mm.
And it's funny because, with all the drummers on it, I thought if the common denominator of my voice and my guitar was everything was spread around that, you know, I kind of shot myself in the foot when it came to mixing, because I handed the record over to the mastering guy and he's like, "This doesn't sound like the same record. It sounds like 11 different records. It sounds like Goofy Greats." And I was like, "No." He's like, "Yeah, you got to bring it closer together." So then Chris Lord Alge had mixed two songs. So I was just kind of, referencing that a lot. And then at the same time, I was just, okay, so this has got to be more like this, and this got to be more like this. But the funny thing is some of the drummers played on the same kit, and the kit still sounds different because everybody hits
Mm.
different. So that's why it was hard to get it all under the same scope. But my mastering guy Mauer Applebaum, he helped me through the whole thing, man. He kind of held my hand, and hey, a little more of this, a little more of that. Oh, this is good. This is great. This is a great track. Make everything more like that. And then I would just dive in, and we took weeks to get it right. So, but at the end of the day, I'm really, really happy with it. Yeah.
Mm. Well, there you go. I mean, what more of an endorsement do you want? Go out and grab that now. And thanks so much, Phil.
Oh,
It's
thank you, man. I appreciate your time. I really do. Thank you.
it's cool.